That's such a good point. Like if you did everything the opposite of what they said, like maybe that's not perfect, but you'd be damn close. Like that would be a really great diet for a lot of people. Tell us a little bit about your journey of learning about low carbohydrate diets and how that transitioned into carnivore for you.
Okay. Well, it was a journey of listening to my own body, really, because I've never smoked, I don't drink, I've never drunk. Okay, so and I did everything healthy, and my wife's going to tell me off because she says many people have heard this story, but people ask me, so I tell her the same story. So I was doing all the things. I was doing skim milk, I was doing cereals, I was doing, you call it oatmeal, I was doing, call it porridge, fruits, freshly squeezed orange juice, egg white omelets. Oh wow, get rid of the best bit. I believed in energy drinks, everything, seriously everything. Post
You
workout
would
protein
you would need
shakes.
energy drinks if you're eating all those foods. You absolutely need energy drinks because your energy is going to be bouncing up and down all day.
Yeah, well, that's what I now know, and it was so I did everything. But the point is, I did everything. I'm one of the few people that's probably did do everything, and I still got pre-diabetes. I still had lower left quadrant pain, so I had to have a colonoscopy. I still got a cataract. I still had rashes. I still had athlete's foot. I was getting tubbier. You know, I could not eat less and move more because I was running good distances 3 times a week. I was part of a running group. I mean, the guy taking the group had won marathons. This wasn't people that were just jogging around the streets. This was serious competitive running, middle distance running, 3 times a week, doing mile sprints. Honestly, I mean, I was doing everything, and I still got fatter. So I couldn't really understand it because literally I didn't do more. And I'll tell you a couple of personal things. Whenever I look at old photographs, I'll say to Jane, that's my wife, I love that shirt. What happened to that shirt? And she's, well, you got all cross with the fact you couldn't lose any weight. You threw it out because it didn't fit you. And that's how frustrating it was, because I was a personal trainer, ex-sports person, and I was doing all that I should do. And I think there are now professionals that are coming out, and doctors saying this, and general practitioners, dietitians, all saying the same thing. They're doing all that because what used to happen is if you didn't get a patient resolving anything, you would blame them. You'd say, well, you're not complying, you're not doing it, you're cheating, you're not doing your exercises, those sort of things. Well, I was doing all that stuff. And then I think the qualification in diabetes was the final sort of piece in the jigsaw, because it was all coming together. The obesity thing, I really got into, insulin, understanding that. The best medical textbook I've ever read is Guyton's medical physiology textbook, which I really do recommend, where it just said in a few lines, the lack of insulin in your body will lead to fat metabolism, being enhanced. And I'm thinking, right, well, there you go. Right. Okay. So now we've got that. And obviously studying type 2 diabetics, for instance, which blows the calorie theory out of the water, because here's these humans that could be eating 10,000 calories a day. So they allegedly should be getting really big. But obviously, because they can't produce insulin, they wasted away. And before 1922, they died. I mean, however many calories, they could not gain weight. And there will be people saying, well, that's just a medical condition. But it's proof of concept, because as soon as you give them insulin, they gain the weight. They don't die. And you give them too much insulin, they get very fat. And if someone's a type 2 diabetic and they inject in with insulin, if they don't change the site of injection, those areas get fat. That's known. So we know that that insulin is lipogenic, and it definitely makes your fat cells react, and it certainly stops you burning fat. I mean, that's definitely true. So this part of the obesity thing, and then the diabetic side of things, certainly made me question it. And it was just, I suppose, not a midlife crisis. It's a lovely landmark. I got to 50 and I thought, right, that's it. There's an episode of Seinfeld, I think, where George says, everything I've ever done in my life has gone wrong. So if I just do the opposite, it's got to go right. And
Classic.
as soon as it's classic, that's a classic line. And it's definitely how I acted. It wasn't because of Seinfeld, by the way, but that's what I did. I just thought, right, okay, I'm actually going to embrace this higher fat, lower carb way of eating. I'm not going to do tons of endurance exercise. I'm going to do what feels right. I'm going to eat to my hunger signals. I'm going to stop when I'm full. I'm going to drink to thirst, because water's a big thing. We drink way too much water. If your urine is clear, you're drinking too much water. That's just a fact. Your urine is a great gauge. I won't bore you with that one. But as soon as I went low carb, I'm really talking maybe 6 weeks. The weight was just coming off. I was feeling more energetic. The rash went. Not everything resolved, and that's why, but I'm a great believer in, you've got to get into good habits. You can't just try something for 30 days. That's rubbish. And a lot of these scientific trials where they look at 6 weeks or 8 weeks, it's like, well, those people weren't carnivore before or low carb. It's not worth really what they're doing. So I gave it a long time, and I didn't change until a couple of years later, where I got into keto. And I am not ashamed to admit this. I mean, I was very persuaded by people like Dr. Berg, Eric Berg. I know people don't like him, but I think he's a sort of gateway drug into better people, if you see what I mean.
Totally.
Because
Totally.
he speaks some sense, obviously not the 7 cups of veg and all that, but he was quite inspirational for me. And then at this point, I'd never even heard of Sean Baker, by the way. So I went keto, and I was looking at Ken Berry. I can remember him doing a video, which is very funny and tongue in cheek, saying, eat your greens, which, he meant at that time. So I feel like we had a parallel life for a bit, where he was sort of realizing that maybe the veg wasn't good, and I was sort of realizing maybe the veg wasn't good. And then I got into the biology, and like I say, the science degree I was doing, which is in physiology and health sciences. And I deliberately did my own research in biology. I was also doing some stuff, because I don't know if you know this, but I am deaf. I wear hearing aids. And I was seeing that for the first time in my life, my hearing was getting better, which I've got empirical data and simple stuff like, I've got an app on my phone to turn the volume up to hear people. And that was edging down and down and down. Everything was resolving. And I just thought, well, I've got to get even better. I'm sure all things could resolve. And that's what happened. So I went keto, and that was even better than low carb. And then when you're doing keto, I found a few things were problematic, like the keto treats. If I had a keto treat, wow, I'd go straight back to sort of craving stuff and wanting the old things that, used to appeal to me, which, are not that bad, but they're still not good, and it didn't do it for me mentally. I still craved. And I just got to 55 and went carnivore. And that was it. It was as simple as that. I just thought, I've got to do it. I want to try this for 30 days. Corny though that seems, and I know I just said about doing things for longer, but let's give it 30 days, see how I go. And if there is such a big improvement, boy, I'm going to stick to it. So 3.5 years later, that pretty much is proof of concept. It did get better, things that I didn't realize were getting better, because I was so used to them. An athlete's foot is a really good example. Although that's a very low level, sort of just what most people would call a niggly condition, I had to get rid of it for years and done everything, acids and duct tape and powdering my shoes and my socks and being barefoot as much as possible, everything, urinating on it, everything that I'd read. Nothing got rid of it. And so I'd given up trying to get rid of it and thought, well, that's life, that's with me for life. And that went. And that went with carnivore. It didn't go with keto or low carb. I used to have a big red blob here when I was stressed. It looked like somebody got a strawberry and splattered me when I got stressed. And
wow.
That's just gone. Like I say, just so many things have improved. The skin's improved. And I suppose one thing that you're going to go, wow, because I know we've got some common ground, although we don't know each other very well. The muscle side of things, the training side of things, that really was a big eye opener, because as I got into the science and realized I was doing it wrong, and also I had been telling people to do it wrong, which, that's how we live. I'm afraid we all make mistakes. And it'd be nice if the big corporations could actually have the balls to do it. but I realized that, I'm leading people the wrong way with high amounts of volume and overtraining people, not giving them enough rest. So I learned that from practicing what I've been reading about and preaching. And in 1 year, well, let's do some easy things for the people that like to know this sort of thing when you're training. Within 3 months of doing carnivore, my testosterone had gone up 30%.
Wow.
So, 55 with no juicing, no additions, to get that huge increase was amazing. I'm a qualified phlebotomist, by the way, so I was able to do the bloods. I know it's very expensive for people, but I was lucky at that point. And I didn't think I could make strength gains like I made. And I have a Tanita sort of body composition thing, which is electrical impedance. Now, they are pretty good, and that particular company is pretty robust. But even if their figures are out, they're out all the time, if you see what I mean. So when I was not doing carnivore, I would do a body composition. When I was doing high carb, I'd do body composition. And I'd be pretty happy if I gained a couple of pounds in a year of muscle. And in 1 year, I gained 9 pounds of muscle.
Wow.
I had
Wow,
such a
that's
training.
amazing.
Yeah, such a training response. I mean, I'm not particularly big now, and I'm in the middle of an experiment, to be honest, where I haven't trained for 4 months because I want to see what happens. Because I've been looking at a study about maintenance of muscle, and I want to test it out. And I was going to do 3 months, and I thought, well, do you know what? Let's push it to where that study is, because they look at maintenance of muscle with very little training over an 8-month period. So that study's worthwhile because it's a big study, a lot of people, muscle biopsies, those sort of things. And it's incredible, actually, because, I haven't trained that bicep for 4 months.